Hey everybody! Don't you hate when your computer just shuts down while you're in the middle of filming a video? I do. Okay, in this video that I've got to film a second time because my computer decided to shut down in the middle, we are going to do part two or second episode of my Habs History series of seasons in review. And we're looking this episode at 1964-65. What I'm doing is I was born in 1963, so I'm taking a look at the teams every year since I was born, and we'll just review the seasons. And as we go along in these first few ones, I don't know a ton, but I do know some things about the older teams before I was born. And as we get farther in, I'll be able to do a little bit more commentary about the years that I clearly remember. I was just born here. There's no way I remember anything. But back in the day, we learned a lot about the teams and the team itself and its history. So we'll go on that. So this is 1965, and it's brought to you from Talking Habs, where which is blah 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 is dedicated to the Habs and all things hockey. And I think I'm just going to go with that. If you're a Habs fan and you want to see more videos like this, which with a better opening, because today I'm babbling. I don't know why. Head down there, subscribe, ring the notifications bell. That'll get you your daily fix of Blue Blanc Rouge right here at Talking Habs. And give a thumbs up if you like the video, and head down there as well to leave any comments you may have about the video, about the team, about what's going on right now, anything you want in the comment section. Okay, so this is 1965. The first video I did was from the year before, 1963, the Maple Leafs won the Cup, but the Habs did finish in first place. This year, they finished in second place, and with a record of 36, 23, and 11. Detroit finished ahead of them in first. They scored 211 goals, which was 2 goals more than the season before, and gave up 185 goals, which I believe is somewhere around 16 or 17 goals given up more than they did last year. So their defense wasn't as stingy, and maybe that's the reason why they fell down into second place. I don't know. That could be. The league results: Detroit 40, 23, and 7 for first place. Montreal 36, 23, and 11 for second. Chicago 34, 28, and 8 for third. Toronto 30, 26, and 14 for fourth. The Rangers and Bruins were in the bottom like normal. 20, 38, and 12, and the Bruins 21, 43, and 6, which was 3 wins more than they had the season before, but still in the bottom. Record versus each team: against Boston, 10, 3, and 1. Love to see that number. Chicago 6, 5, and 3. Detroit 4, 8, and 2. Rangers 10, 2, and 2. And Toronto 6, 5, and 3. The GM in his first year as GM was Sam Pollock. They had not won the Cup for 4 years after winning the Cup 5 years in a row to close out the 50s and start the 60s. And so they fired the GM. And everybody here who's watching the video that's fired Bergevin guy, that's what they did if you didn't win for a while. In those days, making the playoffs, it wasn't such a thing for Montreal because it was a 6-team league, 4 teams made the playoffs. But if you didn't have success, he got fired. Coach was Toe Blake, nearing the end of his run, I believe, as coach, and will be the most successful coach in hockey history up until Scotty Bowman passes him much later. Captain Jean Beliveau had a bit of an injury-filled season. Didn't play a full slate of games, but was healthy for the playoffs. And that was important here. Assistant captains or alternate captains: Henri the Pocket Rocket Richard, who we just lost recently to Alzheimer's, and Jean-Guy Talbot was a 31-year-old defenseman, good solid defenseman, leading he was the elder statesman on the defense. There was a lot of young guys this season on defense. Team leaders in goals, assists, and points was Claude Provost with 27 goals, 37 assists for 64 points. Penalty minute leader was John Ferguson with 156 penalty minutes. The wins leader for in net was Gump Worsley and Charlie Hodge this season. Worsley was there the season before, but didn't play a lot of games, and I'm not sure why. It might have been because they had just traded for him. I'm not sure exactly why. But this year he got into a lot more games, And Hodge had 26 wins. I think he had 10 wins, Worsley. And the goals against for Hodge was 260. I believe Worsley's was 297, somewhere around there. They didn't keep save percentages in those days. They had shut out the other team 5 times this season, and they were shut out 4 times and had no scoreless ties this season. They went to the obviously made the playoffs. They were second place. They played Toronto in the first round and beat them in 6. I don't have the results from that. In the Cup Finals, they played a full 7 games, and it was home team. Home team won all the games. So first 2 games in Montreal were 3-2 and 2-0 wins for Montreal. So that's they had 3 shutouts. I don't know which ones. Gump Worsley had 2 in this series. I don't know which ones he had exactly, but they went to Chicago 3-1 and 5-1 wins for Chicago. Montreal couldn't seem to score in Chicago. Don't know why. They went back home to Montreal. They shut them out again, 6-0. Went back to Chicago. Chicago beat them 2-1. So in the 3 games in Chicago, Montreal scored only 3 goals. But it didn't change the results that when they came back to Montreal, they another shutout and they won the series. So in Chicago, Montreal could only score 1 goal a game. In Montreal, of the 4 games, Montreal shut them out 3 times. Gump Worsley had 2 of those shutouts, as I said. I got to turn to read this. First ever Conn Smythe winner. It was the first time for the Conn Smythe Trophy, and it was awarded to Jean Beliveau, who had 8 goals, 8 assists for 16 points in 13 games. So Montreal was the Stanley Cup champions. And what I'm going to do is change the boards, and we'll go over the scorers. All right, so I got the regular season and playoff scoring for the not the whole team, but for the main part of the team. So we've got Claude Provost, which we already knew he was leading the team with 27, 37, 64 totals in 70 games. He played a full season. Ralph Backstrom, center, played 70 games, 25 goals, 30 assists, 55 points. Forgot to go over the playoff numbers. In 13 games, Provo was 2-6 for 8 points, 2 goals, 6 assists. And Backstrom in 13 games was 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. Henri Richard, who only played 53 games, so he had some injuries, but he was there for the playoffs. 23 goals, 29 assists for 52 points, and 7 goals, 4 assists for 11 points in the playoffs. Solid performance by the pocket. Bobby Russo played 66 games, a right winger, 12 goals, 35 assists, 47 points, and put up 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points in 13 games in the playoffs. Obvious solid numbers. He was a good player, Bobby Russo. John Ferguson, left wing, 69 games, 17 goals, 27 assists, 44 points. I know, guys, this is the boring part, but I like going over stats. 13 games in the playoffs, only 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points. And you can see where Ferguson was a good hockey player, but he was the muscle, the tough guy. In the playoffs, you didn't have a lot of room for that in those days, especially. And although you saw some fights in the playoffs where you rarely see that today, but he wasn't going to be part of the scoring. It's your main guys are going to be part of the scoring if you're going to have success. And you can see it in the numbers. Beliveau, who had played only 58 games in the season. He was injured, but he was back at the end of the season and putting up numbers. Center, obviously, 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points, and that previously mentioned 8 goals, 8 assists, 16 points, and the Conn Smythe Trophy win. Dave Balin, I don't know why I always say Balin, don't know why, because I'm from Quebec, that's why. A left wing, 63 games, 18 goals, 23 assists, 41 points. In 10 games. I don't know why he played 10 games, but he had no points. So I don't know why that would be. And he played in 10 games at 0 points. And he's a guy who put up 41 points in the regular season. You got to figure there's some story there that I just don't know right now. Claude LaRose, who is a rookie, I believe here. He played 68 games. He's a right wing, 21 goals, 16 assists, 37 points, in 13 games in the playoffs. 1 assist for 1 point. As he's a rookie. Now, Jacques Laperriere, I believe also if he's not still a rookie, he's in his second year. I believe he's 21 years old there. He's a defenseman, 67 games, 5 goals, 22 assists, 27 points. He must have got hurt because in only 6 games in the playoffs, he only had a goal and an assist for 2 points. Jean-Guy Talbot, 67 games. He's a defenseman and the leading statesman on the defense as far as age. 8 goals, 14 assists, 22 points. 13 games in the playoffs, just 1 assist for 1 point. But he's a defenseman, so, defensemen didn't get a lot of points in the playoffs in those days. J.C. Tremblay, defenseman as well, 68 games. 3 goals, 17 assists, 20 points. And in the playoffs, 1 goal, 9 assists, 10 points. So an exception to the rule, he had 10 points in 13 games. That's pretty damn good for a defenseman back in the day. Yvan Cournoyer, right wing, played 55 games. His rookie season, 7 goals, 10 assists, 17 points. Remember, he's a small player, 5'7". They kind of took it easy on him as far as responsibility and where he played and all that in his first season. So that's why the low totals and the not playing every game. 12 games played in the playoffs, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points. And Dick Duff, who the previous year was, I believe, now I'm not sure, but I was watching some footage of, I thought it was 63, 64. Turns out it was the year before. Dick Duff played for the Maple Leafs. Was one of their good players. I don't know if he was their best player, but he's a left wing, played 40 games. I think this was his first season here, but I'm not positive. 9 goals, 7 assists, 16 points. In 13 games in the playoffs, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points, not bad. He would go on to play, I think, 5 or 6 seasons here in Montreal. And so that's the basic scoring. Not much else that I can tell you from this season, but Montreal wins the Stanley Cup. They go on to win the next, they win another season. Then Toronto gets their last Stanley Cup win, 1967. So, and then Montreal closes out the 60s with 2 Stanley Cup wins. So they have back-to-back Stanley Cup wins sandwiched in between Toronto Stanley Cup win. So there you go. The next one obviously will be the 65, 66 season, excuse me. I'm old, remember that. So I'll take a look at that. Hopefully I'll do that by tomorrow. And that's it for the video. If you'd like to give a thumbs up, subscribe, ring the notifications bell down there if you want to see more videos like this and get your daily fix of Blue, Blanc, Rouge from Talking Habs. And leave any comments you may have about the season, about anything about the Habs, about the video in the comment section down below. And see you next time. I'm going to do a live stream tonight, depending on when you're watching this. Stay safe, everybody. Wash your hands. Stay away from people. Stay inside as much as you can. Let's all be healthy and make it to the other side of all this. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for watching.